What's up, my YouTube family? So wanted to make a semi-quick video before I went to bed. So this may be a little bit groggy, but stay with me. It's good info. I am in Oklahoma City. I am starting grad school in a week. Just got into my second grad program today, so we're excited about that. But yeah, I'll be talking about that later. Wanted to get into the topic. Thanks to the new subscribers here from the Bodybuilding Bros. If I haven't said that a dozen times already, I appreciate you guys. But what I wanted to talk about in this topic was high-frequency training. High-frequency training, right? So again, a lot of the typical, again, not that there's anything wrong with this, but a lot of the typical powerlifting programs, again, this is going to be more geared towards powerlifters. So if you're a bodybuilder, you can stay here and watch, or, you know, physique person, stay here and watch. You'll get something out of it, but more directed toward pure strength, right? You know, like 5-3-1 is, you know, bench once, you know, bench day, squat day, deadlift day, OHP day. Or the cube is, you know, bench, squat, deadlift, accessory day. Or a lot of the popular powerlifting programs are, you know, lower frequency in the lifts. Again, there's some adjustments you can make to those. I know, like some people do higher frequency cube kind of inspired things, right? But the templates as they're written, 5-3-1, whatever, are low frequency, being that it's maybe once a week, maybe even twice a week, which I wouldn't consider high frequency by any means. And again, don't get me wrong, people can get stronger. I got stronger doing this. You may have gotten stronger doing this. You probably know someone that's gotten stronger doing this. So by no means am I saying you cannot get stronger on one of those programs. But that's not to say you can't get stronger or you can't get more strong on a different kind of protocol, right? So what we'll be talking about are two research studies, definitely the one I brought up in front of me. So if you're not familiar with Greg Nichols, I think his name is Nichols. He's I think he's one of the moderators for Juggernaut, JTS, if you're familiar with that. Chad Wesley Smith and Brandon Lilly and Tashara and all those guys. Yeah, go check out his website. It's just gregnichols.com. I'll put it in the description box if you want to search for it. He actually didn't write this article. This article is written by, I probably can't even pronounce his name, guy from the Netherlands, Martin, starts with the last name K. Again, I'll post it in the description box. But I was reading this article, actually, because I was reading something else from Greg's website. Great name, by the way, right? I was reading something else, and I saw, like, on his, you know, related topics, and he's a good guy, and I like him. I like the guys over at Juggernaut. They're really cool. So yeah, I just wanted to check this out. I saw something about, you know, Netherlands, you know, bodybuilding or powerlifting training or whatever. So the research, again, I'll do the quick cliffs because you can go read it if you really want to know the information. But essentially, they equated two training programs, right? 16, I think it was 16, whatever. 16-ish powerlifters were in this program, some male and some female, and they equated the total volume. So again, sets times reps times weight was the same. Again, I'm assuming towards their percentages. Not everyone was in the same strength level. And then also they're doing the same exact plan, right? So it wasn't like this person was just doing you know, more lifts and then they got better results. That's kind of, you know, intuitive. But they were doing the same exact protocol. They were still doing, you know, squat. They were still doing bench, deadlift, whatever. Again, just kind of like I talked about, the only difference will be, as opposed to the first group did it once a week, and the second group did them twice a week. So they just split up the training protocols a little bit differently. The first group did 3 workouts a week, and the second group did 6 workouts a week. But again, it wasn't just more work, because that would be like, you know, no shit, they did twice as much work. They actually split up the work. So again, I don't think they actually have the sets and reps in here, but to make it easy, say if one person was going to do 4x10 once a week on the bench press, they would just break that bench press into 2 sets of 5, 2 different days, right? So they both did 4 sets of 10. They both did 40 reps, right? One person did it in 1 day, one person did it over a course of 2 days. So again, they broke up those workouts to 3 workouts over 6, and they found that there was a 5% more increase in strength in the high frequency group and a 5% more increase in hypertrophy in the high frequency group. So this also reminds me of a research study in Matt Perryman's Squat Every Day book. If you don't have that resource and you're interested in the science of training, especially the science of high frequency training, that's like $5 on Amazon. It's a phenomenal resource. Matt Perryman is, you know, doesn't have his shirt off on YouTube, so he's not really famous, but he's a really knowledgeable guy. Again, I talk about, you know, Zordos and Ben Escrow a lot, and Matt was right up there with, you know, teaching me about Oh boy. Matt was right up there with teaching me about high frequency stuff. So, along with just some of the, more typical Russian, Eastern Bloc people who I can't pronounce their names, with textbooks people aren't going to read, but Squat Every Day is reader friendly for the most part. Again, there's some science heavy stuff in there, but that was cool for me. Thanks, Matt. But yeah, so he had a research study in there that's very similar to this. Hopefully it wasn't this study, but it was pretty much the same protocol. They broke up, they both moved 30,000 pounds. One group did it in one workout, one group did it in 2 workouts, and another group did it throughout the course of 3 workouts. There's pretty much just like a correlation there with the more frequency they were training, the better strength gains they were getting, and also the more hypertrophy gains they were getting. So now that I'm 6 minutes into this video, I'm actually going to tell you why I think, not just me, some guy moderately strong, but why, kind of like what I've seen with myself, what I've seen with my clients, well, a lot of other, very strong Olympians have seen, and also just kind of what makes sense with science and physiology and how our body reacts. So with the hypertrophy response, a more frequent stimulus is, again, I wouldn't say that's a stretch by any means. I think that's almost kind of intuitive to think that, a lot of people have the idea that protein synthesis is elevated for a very, very long time after your workouts, but I think we're starting to notice, especially in trained individuals, which again, this is more geared towards if you're just squatting once a week and you can squat 135, you probably don't need to run Smolov, right? You need to only do what's appropriate for you. But for the more and more trained you get, actually there's probably a lesser response, because again, that stimulus is just less of a, I'm not going to use that word, it's a less of a dramatic stressor to your body. I almost said shock to your body. I fucking hate that. That stimulus you're providing your body is a less stressful event because you've done it more frequently, if that makes sense, right? So protein synthesis for an elite athlete is probably only elevated like 24, 36-ish hours, right? So if you're training 3 times a week or 4 times a week, half of that time it's not very elevated, right? If you're training 6 times a week, very minimal time, especially if you're doing the same lift 6 times a week, like you're squatting 6 times a week, you can recover from that. You're pretty much constantly having protein synthesis elevated. Again, it's always a balance between nutrition and recovery. I'm not going to get into all that, but again, that's going to be a main component of not only just more muscle mass you're going to get from that, but also because the more, cross-sectional area of muscle you have, the more potential strength you can have. So a bigger muscle equals a stronger muscle, to think of it easily. So yeah, first thing that's going to happen, if you're training more frequently, again, just more frequently, not even more volume, I think you'll have more higher protein synthesis throughout the course of weeks and months, which will lead to more muscle mass. Also, again, lifting does not just tell my muscle to do this. There's also a lot of coordination, a lot of neurological things going on there as well. So think about it this way: if you're doing a high volume day, like a high volume squat day, you're doing maybe like a 4x10 or something like that. Maybe your first 4, 5, 6 reps are good in form. They're solid, they're snappy, how a squat should look. Again, especially if you're a powerlifter, where your goal is to get strong at doing a 1 rep max. But we all know you do high rep squats. Those last few reps, especially the later sets, even if you're trained intelligently, they don't look like they should look. They don't look like a picture perfect, like bam, that squat was just money. They're kind of ugly because you're very fatigued, right? So again, the second thing I think will happen if you're training them more frequently, not only will you get more practice, because again, not only when you're squatting, if you're doing the same amount of reps, you have to warm up to that weight. That's more times warming up. That's more times doing mobility. All of those things, if you're doing it more frequently, just getting under the bar, all of that stuff is going to be more beneficial. But you're also going to get more practice doing the lift correctly. So if you're doing a high volume day, if you're doing 40 reps in one day, maybe a quarter of those are bad reps. Not good kind of coordination of what you want to be teaching your body to do the movement as. Whereas if you're doing that over 2 or 3 days, you can kind of drop your intensity, and by intensity I mean relative closest to failure, right? You can drop your intensity a little bit, so maybe you're training maybe 2 reps away from failure, but now almost all of your reps are perfect, right? And this is especially good for, beginner intermediate trainees where you don't want to develop bad habits. So again, it may be kind of counterintuitive to think that, maybe I shouldn't always train to the max all the time. But again, especially if your sport is trying to lift the heaviest amount of weight one time, that's a huge neurological component of being good at that sport, at that lift. Again, if you are hitting 8s, 9s, 10s at a high intensity, well, that may be good for hypertrophy to do that. As a power lifter, probably what you want to do is more of a technical intensity max, which means when your technique starts to break down to a point where it's not going to be beneficial to your actual lift, you just scratch it. Maybe you can, good morning some more squats, maybe you can heave some more bench presses or hit some more deadlifts, but is that going to have any carryover, or is that just going to accumulate some more fatigue that you don't need, right? So first thing is, I think elevated protein synthesis for a longer time. The second thing is, I guess the second and third thing, the second thing would definitely be not only more practice. The second thing will be more practice, and the third thing will be more practice of quality reps, right? We've all heard that, like, what's that quote? Practice doesn't make perfect, perfect practice makes perfect, kind of a thing, right? So if you go in there and you just, you're not constantly thinking about your squats, you're just kind of talking to your buddy and whatever, and then you're kind of a shitty workout, that isn't so much of a concentrated effort as, I'm going in there, I'm diligently doing my warm-up, as I'm doing my squatting the bar for 5 reps, I'm actually visualizing what 500 pounds feels on my back. I'm having self-talk that I think I'm going to do a good job today. Again, a lot of psychological things that a lot of people don't like to talk about, but that thing makes a big difference. Not just psychobabble bullshit, but I think that a lot of successful trainees will say that that concentrated effort. Again, not just with training, but anything, right? If you're paying attention to something in more detail, what you're going to get out of it is better than if you're just going through the motions. That's life. That's not just training. So those two things I think will mainly help. I want to say this article might have referenced a few things that they thought were like why they thought this was true. They mentioned the protein synthesis thing, which I think was good. They also mentioned, he mentioned, because you feel more fresh when you squat, you can probably produce more force. And I kind of talked about that as well. Even when you're equating the two programs, that will never happen because you're going to feel more fresh. Again, people talk about like being sore and DOMs and I can't lift legs twice a week because I'm sore 3 days afterwards or whatever. Certainly that happens if you don't train frequently. But a lot of us have now heard of wow, I can't think of this. Oh my goodness. I'm not stopping this video. I really can't. The repeated bout effect. Wow, it's really getting late. 9:41. The repeated bout effect, which is just very simply, the more frequently you do something, the easier it is you can adapt to it, right? Which again is kind of intuitive. The more frequently you do anything, not just training, the better you adapt to it, the less of a stressor that activity is, right? So we've known that for a long time. We, as in like not me, I'm not a scientist, but the research has shown that for a very long time that occurs, right? So with that being said, if you're doing that three times a week, you're going to be able to accumulate more volume, right? So again, I talked about even if you don't accumulate more volume, you're going to have more hypertrophy. Think of that even twofold, threefold when you're able to be more fresh to accumulate more volume over the course of time. That's something they mentioned in this article as well. I think that was pretty much it. They just kind of mentioned some stuff about how they train or whatnot. And they referenced some other research in there. So go check that website out. This is a long video. Hopefully you guys check this out. But again, I'll have a lot more information. Hopefully I talk about it in a lot of my training videos about high frequency training. But again, just using this and the Matt Perryman research he referenced, there's so many benefits to it. But again, it's appropriate for only certain people, right? So again, not everyone should be following this. But again, I truly think, with your life stressors and with where you are, with your qualification as an athlete, you should train as frequently as you possibly can, right? Again, caveat to that, life stressors how good are you, but assuming those things, as frequently as you can for someone who is 40 and can't, has almost no training background recently, and has 3 kids, as frequently as they can, maybe 3 times a week, right? But that's still true for them. It's still true they should train as frequently as they can to adapt from that. A 23-year-old graduate student who likes to live in gyms and that's the best part of his days ever, okay, I could probably train 6-7 times a week, 8-9 times, 10 times a week, and recover from it. Don't have kids, don't have a girlfriend. School's not that hard for me. My other stressors are very low, right? I'll talk about that later. We don't want to get into that. But again, high frequency training, 5, 6, 7 thumbs up. Again, not appropriate for everyone, but for some people, I think it's really beneficial. For a lot of people, I think it's beneficial. And this video, I touched on a few reasons why. Better practice, more protein synthesis. I probably could have said that in 2 minutes, but that's not fun, right? So thank you guys for sticking through a 16-minute video on YouTube, and I'll see you next time.